The hidden code, the communications lab, was cloaked in shadows. The only illumination coming from the soft blue glow of holographic displays and the blinking lights of decoding equipment. Dr. Elara sat at the center of the room, her eyes sharp and unwavering as she traced lines of cryptic symbols flickering across the translucent screen. Next to her, Dr. Linway adjusted a series of complex algorithms, their whispered exchanges cutting through the low mechanical hum like whispered spells in the dark. "This fragment," Lin began, his voice steady but edged with excitement, "it's not random noise. There's deliberate structure, here encoded data layers nested within the cosmic static." Elara nodded, her fingers dancing across the interface. "It's a message, but it's encrypted. Whoever sent this knew it couldn't fall into the wrong hands." Outside the lab, the colony simmered with tension. Faction leaders had caught wind of Elara's investigations, their suspicions growing alongside the whispers of rebellion. Yet inside this sanctuary of science, the puzzle pieces were slowly aligning. As hours bled into each other, the team made incremental progress. The encrypted layers peeled back, revealing patterns of mathematical constants and references to celestial coordinates. Then, a breakthrough, a segment of the message, once indecipherable, suddenly resolved into a coherent warning. "Listen to this," Elara said, her voice barely a whisper as she played the decoded segment through a small speaker. The words were distorted but unmistakable. "Cosmic event imminent. Disruption widespread. Survival contingent on knowledge beyond this transmission." A hush fell over the room. The weight of the message pressed down on them all. It was no longer just a mystery, but a dire proclamation. Jock's Wren slid silently into the lab, the faint scent of dust and machinery clinging to his rugged frame. "I've been hearing things," he said, voice low. "Underground channels are buzzing with similar signals. Not just here, but other outposts too. This blackout isn't isolated." Ilara's gaze locked with his. "Then this is bigger than we thought." The room filled with a mix of awe and apprehension. The colony's isolation was no accident. It was part of a cosmic catastrophe reaching across light years. Meanwhile, Myra Solon and Captain Soren Hale convened in the council chamber, voices rising as they debated the implications. Myra's hopeful pragmatism clashed with Soren's hardened skepticism. "We can't ignore this," Myra insisted, her bright eyes blazing with conviction. "This message could be our key to survival." Soren's expression hardened. "Or it could be a trap. We risk everything chasing shadows while our people starve and fight." Their argument echoed through the steel walls, a microcosm of the colony's fracturing soul. Back in the lab, Elara retreated to the observation deck as night fell over the colony. The sky above was an empty canvas, Earth's familiar light replaced by an unyielding void. The cold wind bit at her cheeks, but she stood firm, the decoded message echoing in her mind like a clarion call. "We're not alone in this," she whispered to the silent stars. "And this isn't the end." Yet beneath her resolve lingered a shadow of doubt. The warning was clear. Survival demanded knowledge, cooperation, and sacrifice. The colony's future hinged on how they would heed the hidden code now burning bright in the cosmic silence. Elara turned back toward the lab, determination setting her jaw. The path ahead was uncertain and fraught with peril, but the first step had been taken. The transmission was no longer a mystery, it was a summons, and the colony would have to answer. The grey light of the colony's artificial dawn filtered through the reinforced windows of the observation deck, casting long shadows across the room where Dr. Elara Voss stood, alone yet unyielding. Around her, the low hum of machinery and the occasional beep of monitoring instruments wove a mechanical symphony that punctuated the weighty silence of isolation. She traced her fingers along the worn console, eyes sharp and unwavering as they scanned the latest digital readouts. The fragments of the transmission continued to tease her mind-buried whispers in the cosmic static, hinting at a message just beyond full comprehension. Outside, the colony's heart beat unevenly. The loss of Earth's voice had fractured more than just communication lines. It had shattered trust, splintered alliances, and set the stage for a power struggle that threatened to unravel everything the settlers had built. Councillor Thane Rykov, with his imposing stature and piercing gaze, wielded fear as a weapon, his cold voice commanding attention in the colony's central hall. His public denouncements of Elara's work had grown sharper, more calculated, designed to sow doubt and fracture the fragile unity still holding the colony together. This so-called transmission, Rykov declared to a gathering thick with tension, is nothing but noise and elaborate distraction crafted by those who would jeopardize our survival for the sake of dangerous fantasies. We must focus on order, on security, not on chasing ghosts in the void. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some nodding in agreement, others casting wary glances toward the fringes where Elara's supporters whispered in hushed urgency. It was a scene charged with unspoken fears, a community teetering on the razor's edge between hope and despair. Amidst the turmoil, Mira Solon moved with determined grace. Her short, athletic frame navigated the restless crowd in the settlement's communal square, her bright eyes locking with individuals caught in the throes of anxiety. Her voice, firm yet warm, rose above the discord. "We cannot afford to fall apart now," she urged. "Our strength lies in unity. We must listen to each other, trust in our shared purpose, and face these unknown dangers together." Her words, though met with skepticism by some, kindled a spark of hope. Mira's pragmatism and optimism had become a beacon for many, a counterweight to Rykov's authoritarian grip. She was the steady hand reminding the colony that survival depended not on division, but on cooperation. Back in the cramped signal lab, the air thick with the scent of recycled oxygen and the faint metallic temps of electronics, Elara and Dr. Lin Wei worked side by side. The glow of flickering monitors cast pale light on their focused faces as they pieced together the transmission's cryptic code. Lin's methodical approach complemented Elara's relentless curiosity, and together they navigated the labyrinth of data with tireless determination. "These patterns," Lin murmured, eyes scanning the scrolling lines, "they're not random. There's structure language hidden beneath the noise." Elara nodded, fingers flying across the keyboard. "If we can decode enough, it might tell us why Earth went silent, why we're truly alone out here." But the political storm was closing in. Councillor Rykov's campaign to undermine her credibility seeped into every corner of the colony's fractured society. Faction leaders whispered in shadowed rooms, suspicion coloring every interaction. Resources, already scarce, became tokens of power, and the threat of violence loomed ever nearer. Despite the mounting pressure, Elara's resolve hardened. She knew that uncovering the truth was the only path to salvation, not just for herself, but for the entire colony. The transmission was more than a message. It was a lifeline, a bridge across the silence that separated them from their origins. One evening, as the artificial stars blinked on above the colony's dome, Elara found herself standing beside Mira in the communal square. The chill of recycled air was softened by the warmth of the gathering crowd, their faces a mosaic of hope, fear, and determination. "This is our moment," Mira said quietly, her eyes reflecting the faint glow of the distant suns. "We can either fall apart or come together. The choice is ours." Elara nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Somewhere in the depths of the cosmic silence, a truth waited to be revealed, and with it, the chance to mend the fractures of a world lost to fear. As night deepened, the colony held its breath caught between the shadows of distrust and the fragile light of hope. The whispers of truth stirred in the static, promising that even in silence, connection endured. But the question remained: could Elara break through the walls of suspicion before the colony tore itself apart? The answer lay hidden in the stars, waiting for those bold enough to listen. The low hum of the data processors filled Elara Voss's observation room as she sat hunched over the glowing screens, her sharp eyes scanning the endless streams of cosmic noise that had become her obsession. The colony beyond the reinforced glass was a restless shadow, its inhabitants caught in the throes of uncertainty and fear. Yet here, in this small sanctuary of blinking lights and star charts, Elara sought order in the chaos, a signal hidden in the silence. For hours, she traced the faint anomalies in the cosmic background, patterns that teased her with their cryptic potential. Her fingers traced the projected constellations, each star a silent sentinel watching over their isolated world. But beneath her scientific focus, a different kind of turmoil stirred, one that no telescope could resolve. The memory of Naomi's voice echoed in her mind, sharp and pleading from their last heated conversation. They had never spoken so openly before, and the confrontation had left an ache far deeper than any celestial mystery. Isolation wasn't just a planetary condition. It had seeped into the very marrow of their lives, fracturing bonds once thought unbreakable. Elara closed her eyes, recalling the narrow corridor where Naomi had confronted her. The younger sister's face had been etched with exhaustion and sorrow, her voice trembling as she implored Elara to remember who she was beyond the data and discoveries. "We're more than stars and signals, Elara," Naomi had said. "We're people, and we're breaking apart." That moment lingered, casting a shadow over Elara's relentless pursuit. She knew that her obsession with the transmission, with the hope of restoring Earth's connection, had come at a cost. She had retreated into solitude, shunning the fragile human interactions that now seemed as vital as oxygen. Determined to understand not just the cosmos, but the fractures within her own heart, Elara rose and made her way to the observation platform. The night sky stretched endlessly above the colony, a tapestry of silent stars that mocked their predicament. The cosmic void was vast and indifferent, yet within its depths lay a promise, a whisper of connection waiting to be heard. As the cold night air brushed against her skin, Elara felt the weight of solitude pressing down, yet beneath it, a fragile spark of hope kindled. She thought of Naomi, of the colony's fractured families and factions, all caught at a crossroads between despair and survival. Returning to their quarters, Elara found Naomi waiting, her eyes searching for a bridge across the growing divide. Their conversation was tentative at first, words laced with pain and apology. Elara shared her fears and doubts, while Naomi revealed the loneliness that had gnawed at her spirit. In that exchange, a tentative reconciliation began to form, fragile but real. The sisters understood that their personal healing was inseparable from the colony's fate. If they were to survive the silence, this cosmic blackout that threatened to unravel them all, they would need to find balance. Between obsession and empathy, between the stars and the human heart. As dawn's pale light crept over the horizon, Elara felt a renewed resolve. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with conflict and sacrifice, but also with possibility. The transmission awaited decoding, and with it, the chance to redefine their future. In the quiet moments before the colony stirred, Elara vowed to embrace both the scientific quest and the fragile ties that bound them, for only together could they hope to navigate the darkness and find a new constellation to guide them home. The crossroads had been reached. The journey was just beginning. The cold hum of the communications lab was the only sound accompanying the faint flicker of the holly display as Dr. Elara Voss and Dr. Lin Wei pored over the enigmatic patterns that had haunted them for days. The cosmic silence had pressed down on the colony like an unyielding shroud, and now, for the first time, the silence was broken, not by noise, but by meaning. Elara's sharp eyes scanned the lines of data, her fingers deftly manipulating the interface. "Lin," she whispered, voice taut with disbelief. "Look at this segment. The recurring pulses. They're not random. This pattern, it's deliberate." Lin leaned closer, the soft glow of the holocasting shadows across her focused face. "It's a coordinate," she said, her voice steady but laced with awe. "A location on our planet, and a warning." The rooms seemed to shrink as the weight of their discovery settled over them. The transmission wasn't just static or cosmic noise. It was a message encoded deep within the silence. A message meant to be found. The coordinate pointed to a remote region on the planet, far from the colony's center, and the warning spoke of an impending cosmic event, one that could threaten their fragile existence. "We have to tell the Council," Elara said, her voice firm but edged with urgency. "This changes everything." Outside the lab, the colony was a powder keg of tension. Factions jostled for power as resources dwindled, and trust had all but evaporated. At the council chamber, Councillor Thane Rykov stood before the gathered leaders, his imposing figure commanding the room. His cold, calculating gaze swept over the assembly as he spoke with measured authority. "This transmission," he said, voice dripping with controlled disdain, "is a distraction, a dangerous rumor born of fear and desperation. We cannot allow ourselves to be swayed by unverified messages that threaten our order." Murmurs rippled through the chamber, some nodding in agreement, others bristling with dissent. Mira Solin rose, her presence a contrast to Rykov's icy demeanor. "We cannot afford to ignore what Elara and Lin have found," she said, her voice ringing clear. "We are isolated, yes, but that does not mean we are powerless. This message, whether warning or hope, demands we act together." Captain Soren Hale, standing at the edge of the room, weighed the words carefully. His skepticism was well known, but even he felt the stirrings of something he couldn't yet name, a flicker of hope in the darkness. As the council fractured further, Elara stepped out onto the observation deck, the twin moons casting a pale, ethereal light over the settlement. The cool night air brushed against her face, carrying the distant echoes of a world she once called home. She looked up at the stars, the vast black tapestry now seeming less empty, as if the universe itself whispered secrets just beyond reach. Her heart was heavy with the burden of knowledge and the fragile spark of possibility. The coordinate was a beacon, a chance to confront the cosmic silence that had swallowed their connection to Earth. But would the colony choose to trust this fragile thread of hope, or would fear and suspicion sever it forever? Inside, the council's debate raged on, the future of the colony balanced on a knife's edge. The transmission had broken the silence, but the real question remained: was the colony ready to listen? The night deepened, and in the stillness, the stars watched silently, as if waiting for the colony to decide its fate. Elara's resolve hardened. Whatever the cost, she would follow the signal into the unknown, into the silence, to find the truth that might save them all. But even as she prepared to lead the colony into uncharted territory, a shadow lurked in the council chamber. Councillor Rykov's eyes glinted with resolve, The fight for control was far from over, and the silence that had once been their enemy was about to become the battlefield. The transmission was more than a message. It was a challenge, and the colony's answer would echo through the void. The briefing room flickered with the pale glow of the holographic map, casting wavering blue light across the worn faces of those gathered. Dr. Elara Voss stood at the center, her dark hair pulled back tightly, eyes sharp and unwavering as she traced a path across the colony's fractured terrain. Opposite her, Mira Solon shifted on her feet, arms crossed but voice steady as she joined in the planning. Captain Soren Hale, imposing and resolute, observed with a calculating gaze, his presence a reminder of the colony's fragile order. If we move through the eastern sectors, Elara began, pointing to a series of red-marked zones on the map, we can avoid the main faction patrols. The transmission's coordinates suggest the signal source lies beyond the northern ridge, where the terrain is rough but less monitored. Myra nodded. That area is within my faction's influence. I can ensure safe passage through those sectors, but the southern routes remain a risk. Hale's voice cut in, low and authoritative. The southern sectors are under strict control by loyalists to Councillor Rykov. Any unauthorized movement there could trigger a conflict. We'll need stealth and speed, no room for error. Elara's gaze hardened, which is why we've asked Jox Wren to join us. His knowledge of the colony's hidden pathways and black market contacts is unmatched. He can guide us through places no patrol expects. The mention of Jox caused a stir. The smuggler's reputation was both a boon and a source of unease. Minutes later, he arrived, drugged and weather-beaten, eyes sharp beneath a hooded jacket. His quick hands folded the edges of an old, tattered map, marked with routes invisible to official records. You want to get from point A to point B without drawing attention, Jox said, voice gravelly but confident. There are tunnels under the industrial sector, forgotten maintenance shafts, and supply corridors that the Council's patrols don't monitor. I know them all. Elara exchanged a glance with Myra and Hale. Trust was a scarce commodity these days, but necessity forged unlikely bonds. As the team prepared, Myra made rounds to faction leaders, delivering impassioned pleas for cooperation. We face an unknown threat, she told a crowded hall filled with skeptics and wary eyes. This transmission offers a beacon chance to understand, to survive together. Our divisions endanger us all. Her words stirred murmurs, some hopeful, others doubtful. Yet a fragile thread of consensus began to weave through the room. Meanwhile, beneath the colony's surface, Jox led the team through narrow, shadowed passageways. The air smelled faintly of oil and damp concrete, punctuated by distant echoes of life above. Every footstep was measured, every corner a potential danger. Elara's heart pounded not just from exertion, but from the weight of what lay ahead. At the observation deck that evening, Elara stood alone, the colony's lights flickering behind her like dying embers. Above, the stars remained silent, indifferent witnesses to the fragile hope she carried. She whispered into the dark, "We will find the truth. We must." The mission was set, the lines of trust drawn tenuously but irrevocably. The colony's future hinged on their ability to bridge divides, confront fears, and follow the faint signal through the vast silence. And as the night deepened, so too did the resolve that even in isolation, connection could be forged anew. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in many cycles, hope glimmered on the horizon.